So as I'm thinking of this, I've got to remove that and that to get to the biface plane, right? So, how would a Clovis person do it? Well, I've got some fairly basic tools here, a couple hammer stones. This one's kind of a hard one, but it's good texture, kind of dense. This one's a softer, sandstone, and this one I use for platform preparation, and retouch. I actually do retouch on my full Clovis points with this. Most of the final retouch is done with this little stone, although I do use pressure sometimes. And this is going to be a challenge because it's really chalky. But again, I'm going to try to think about producing a biface plane. It's going to be a challenge. And then I'm going to use mostly this antler. This is a piece of red deer. It's like elk. And one of the things we're not absolutely sure about is when elk got to North America, and it's right about the time of Clovis. So we're not exactly sure if they had elk antlers to use. They didn't have moose antlers to use. So if we're going to replicate Clovis, we ought to be using things at least that were available to them. Now, reindeer antler, certainly in the north, and reindeer antler can get this big. It's unusual, but it can. No, this is too chalky. It's too chalky, so I've got to get underneath that chalk to get this thing started. It's mostly chalk anyhow, but that's okay. I would have to set myself up with such a challenge, wouldn't I? Oh well, I like challenges.
Yep.
One thing I think we see in the early phases of production, notice I'm using the term phase instead of stage. This isn't really, I'm not staging it, I'm going from the beginning to the end as one fell swoop. On the other hand, I have certain goals that I want to reach in that sequence, and some people call those stages. I like to retain that phrase for something you can demonstrate as either a cultural stopping point where they stop, accumulate a whole bunch at that stage and then transport them and then work them down later. So I'm using phase. But what we see throughout all the phases of Clovis manufacture is thinning from the base. They don't worry about just waiting to the end to do what we call a flute. And so I'm going to try to get rid of this big ridge.